Every month, 80% of women swallow the same little brown pill they were handed as teenagers. And every month, nothing changes. The pain comes back, the pill comes out, the cycle repeats decade after decade. Nobody ever stops to ask why the solution never actually solves anything. But right now, in clinics that most gynecologists will never refer you to, holistic healers are stopping menstrual pain without a single painkiller. No painkiller, no ibuprofen, no naproxen, no prescription anti-inflammatories. They are using methods that have been tested in randomized controlled trials, methods that matched or outperformed pharmaceutical painkillers in peer-reviewed research. And your doctor almost certainly never mentioned any of them, not because the evidence is weak, because the evidence does not have a patent. And here is the part that should stop you cold. The reason these methods work is not mysterious. It is not mystical. It is because they target the actual mechanism that creates menstrual pain, a mechanism your painkiller was never designed to fix. Something is happening inside your body every month that nobody explained to you. Once you understand what it is, everything you were told about managing your period will fall apart. But before I show you what holistic healers figured out, you need to meet a woman in Portland, Oregon. Her story is probably your story. The lie she was told is almost certainly the lie you are still living inside. It is a Thursday evening in November. The apartment smells like leftover soup and the lavender candle she lit an hour ago, hoping it would do something. It did not. She lies on her couch in the fetal position with a heating pad draped across her abdomen, a pad that stopped being warm 20 minutes ago. She is not moved to fix it because moving means straightening her body, and that means the cramp hits again, the deep one, the one that wraps around her lower back and squeezes like a fist closing slowly around her spine. Her name is Sarah. She is 39. She has been managing her period this way since she was 14, 25 years in all. Same routine. Ibuprofen at the first sign of pressure. 4 pills every 6 hours for 2 days. Sometimes 3. A hot water bottle when the pills are not enough. Canceling plans when neither is enough. Calling in to work twice a year on the worst months and saying she has a migraine because migraine sounds medical and period cramps sound like complaining. Nobody ever told Sarah that after 25 years of chronic, non-steroidal anti-inflammatory drug use, up to 70% of long-term users show measurable damage to their stomach lining on endoscopic imaging. Silent erosion. Ulcers forming without symptoms, gut integrity dissolving month after month beneath a pill that was supposed to be safe. Nobody told her that every dose temporarily constricts blood flow to her kidneys. Long-term use is linked to renal damage, documented so thoroughly that the FDA prints it on the label in a font so small you would need a magnifying glass and a reason to look. Nobody gave her a reason to look. Nobody gave her a reason to believe anything else existed. Now, here's where this story splits in two. In a different clinic in a different city, a holistic practitioner is sitting across from a woman with the exact same symptoms, same deep cramping, same lower back pain, same decades of being told this is just how it is. But this practitioner does not reach for a prescription pad. She asks different questions, not just where does it hurt and how bad on a scale of 1 to 10. She asks about diet, about sleep, about digestion, about whether the pain is sharp and stabbing or dull and heavy, because in her training, those are two completely different conditions with two completely different solutions. She is not looking at a symptom to suppress. She is reading a pattern to decode. And the solution she offers does not come in a blister pack. It has been validated in the same journals that validated ibuprofen. And that is what makes this story so infuriating. Before I show you the specific methods, you need to understand what is actually happening inside the body during menstrual pain. Once you see the mechanism, the holistic approach does not just make sense. It becomes the only approach that makes sense. There is a chemical compound your body produces called prostaglandin, specifically prostaglandin F2 alpha and prostaglandin E2. Every month, as the uterine lining breaks down, your body floods the area with these compounds. They are not mistakes. They serve a function. These prostaglandins trigger the uterine muscle to contract, squeezing the lining out. That is menstruation. Normal, necessary, not inherently painful. But in women with severe cramps, prostaglandin concentration is not just elevated. It is excessive. The uterine muscles contract so violently and so frequently that they compress their own blood supply. The tissue becomes oxygen starved. The medical term is ischemia. It is the same mechanism that causes pain during a heart attack. Your uterus is experiencing a localized oxygen crisis. Prostaglandin E2 is simultaneously sensitizing every pain receptor in the region, turning up the volume on nerve signals that are already screaming. More contraction, more pain sensitivity, all happening at the same time. It is a double assault your body was never meant to sustain at this intensity. And what does ibuprofen do? It blocks prostaglandin production, all of it, everywhere, not just in the uterus. In the stomach lining, where prostaglandins protect you from your own digestive acid. In the kidneys, where they regulate blood flow. In the gut wall, where they maintain the mucosal barrier that keeps bacteria where it belongs. Ibuprofen does not target the fire. It shuts off every sprinkler in the building and calls the water damage acceptable. Makes sense, right? Flood the whole basement because one pipe is leaking. Now here is where everything changes. Holistic practitioners have been targeting that exact prostaglandin pathway for centuries, not by suppressing it systemically, by modulating it specifically. And when modern researchers finally tested these approaches in clinical trials, the results were not just encouraging, they were humiliating for anyone who ever dismissed them as placebo. Let's start with the one that should have made headlines but never did. Ginger. Not ginger supplements loaded with fillers. Not ginger tea from a bag that has been sitting in a warehouse for 2 years. Dried ground ginger root, 250 milligrams, 4 times daily, beginning the day symptoms start. Roughly 1 gram total, less than half a teaspoon of powder. A meta-analysis published in the journal Pain Medicine examined multiple randomized controlled trials comparing ginger to both placebo and ibuprofen for primary dysmenorrhea. Against placebo, ginger reduced pain severity with a standardized mean difference of negative 1.13. In clinical research, anything above 0.8 is considered a large effect. This was not marginal. This was substantial. But here is the part that should make you set this video down and stare at the wall for a minute. When researchers compared ginger directly against 400 milligrams of ibuprofen, there was no statistically significant difference between them. None. Ginger performed equally. Same pain reduction. Same clinical outcome, without the stomach erosion, without the kidney stress, without 25 years of silent organ damage accumulating behind a label that says safe when used as directed. A bottle of ground ginger root costs $4. It lasts 2 months. No prescription, no copay, no pharmaceutical rep buying your doctor lunch to recommend it. If you are finding this valuable, hit that like button. This information has been sitting in medical journals for years while millions of women were never told it existed. But ginger is only the first layer. The prostaglandin story has a chapter most doctors never read. This is where the holistic approach reveals something that changes everything. Your body does not manufacture prostaglandins from nothing. It builds them from a fatty acid called arachidonic acid, an omega-6 compound found in high concentrations in processed food, factory farm meat, and refined seed oils. The more arachidonic acid stored in your tissue, the more raw material your body has to produce inflammatory prostaglandins when your cycle begins. You are not just experiencing pain every month. You are feeding it 3 meals a day, and nobody ever connected those dots for you. But omega-3 fatty acids compete directly with omega-6 for the same enzymatic pathway. When omega-3s occupy that pathway instead, the prostaglandins your body produces shift from pro-inflammatory to anti-inflammatory. The contractions become manageable. The pain signal quiets, not because you suppressed it, because you changed what your body was building in the first place. A 2023 meta-analysis of 12 randomized controlled trials found that omega-3 supplementation reduced menstrual pain severity by 22 to 66%. 86% of the studies also reported a significant reduction in painkiller use. Women were not just hurting less, they were reaching for the bottle less. Some stopped entirely. This is what holistic healers have understood for generations. The pain is not random. It is not a design flaw. It is a downstream consequence of upstream conditions. Fix the upstream and the downstream resolves itself. It is not magic. It is systems thinking applied to a body that mainstream medicine insists on treating like a collection of disconnected parts. Then there is heat, not a warm bath, not a vague suggestion to relax. Continuous topical heat applied directly to the lower abdomen. A clinical trial published in the Journal of the American Medical Association found that a heat patch matched ibuprofen for pain relief. 70% of women using heat alone reported complete resolution of symptoms compared to 55% on ibuprofen. Heat dilates the blood vessels that prostaglandin-driven contractions are squeezing shut. It breaks the ischemic cycle, restores oxygen to the tissue, and addresses the physics of the pain instead of just muting the chemistry. Your grandmother already knew this. She put a hot water bottle on her stomach, and nobody called her a wellness influencer. She was just solving the problem with what worked. Then someone replaced that tool with a pill that cost more, damaged more, and solved less, and called it progress. And then there is magnesium, the mineral that more than half of American women are deficient in. Magnesium directly relaxes smooth muscle tissue, the exact type of tissue that lines the uterus. When levels are adequate, contractions do not grip as hard. A double-blind trial found that 300 milligrams daily significantly reduced cramp severity, prostaglandin concentration, and associated symptoms like headache, lower back pain, and bloating. The cost is roughly 9 cents a day. 9 cents for a mineral deficiency that nobody tested you for before handing you a pill that costs 50 times more and erodes your stomach lining while it works. So let me be very clear about what I am telling you. A root that cost $4 matched ibuprofen in clinical trials. Heat outperformed it. Omega-3 fatty acids reduce pain by up to 2/3 by redirecting the biochemical pathway that creates the pain in the first place. A mineral that most women are deficient in directly relaxes the muscle responsible for the cramping. None of this was hidden. It was published, peer-reviewed, and sitting in databases any physician could access. The problem was never the evidence. The problem was that ginger, fish oil, magnesium, And heat pads do not generate $600 billion in annual pharmaceutical revenue. They do not fund medical school symposiums. They do not buy advertising during prime time. And they do not require a monthly prescription that keeps you coming back. You were told to manage, to cope, to take the pill and wait it out. You were told this is just how it is. And every month you believe them. Not because you were not smart enough to question it, because the system was designed so that the question never occurred to you. There was one option on the table, one category of solution. Everything else was dismissed as alternative, which is a polite word for not profitable enough to take seriously. 71% of women of reproductive age worldwide experience dysmenorrhea. That's not a fringe condition. That's the majority of women alive. And the dominant medical response for decades has been a pill that erodes the stomach, stresses the kidneys, and never once asks why the pain exists at that intensity in the first place. Holistic healers ask why. And the answers they found, some of them centuries before clinical trials existed, turned out to be right. Not approximately right. Measurably, reproducibly, and in studies that survive peer review. Right. Sarah is still on her couch in Portland, but now she has information she did not have this morning. Not a product, not a subscription, not another thing to buy. Just an understanding of her own body that 25 years of medicine never provided. The pain was never a malfunction. It was a signal, and instead of reading it, the system taught her to silence it. Month after month. For a quarter century, the tools were always there. A root, a mineral, a warm compress, a shift in what builds the pain before the pain arrives. They were just too simple, too cheap, and too old to be taken seriously by an industry that only respects what it can patent and sell on a recurring basis. Now you have them, and the next time the cramp hits and your hand reaches for that familiar brown bottle, you are allowed to reach for something else instead. Something that does not just quiet the signal, something that answers it. There was always another way. You just were not supposed to find it.